here to tell you about the Zero Glide fretted instrument replacement nut system. And personally, I really like it. I installed it on this guitar here, and it has a bunch of pros. It does have a couple of cons, and some of them could be deal breakers, but that's really for you to decide. So let's get into it. It says here it improves tuning, open string tone, and playability. And I think I would agree with all three of those. So let's see, I jotted down some notes. The biggest thing is definitely lower action at the nut. It's really, really low. It's like perfect. It was a little bit of trial and error. What you do is you put the little plastic piece in, and it has a little shelf in a sort of space where they give you some frets, and they gave me 4 different sizes. I got the one for like a Strat replacement, and they're different heights. So you fit I started with the lowest one, and it was buzzing at the first fret, so I put in the next one, buzzing a little bit. I put in the third one. So you see what's the right height and everything. Then you have to sort of fit it a little bit. The fret is pretty wide, so I took a little like wire cutters thing and snipped off probably like a good 1/2 inch. It's pretty wide. The nut itself, I just sanded down the edges of it, like, you know, whatever, a 1/16 of an inch on each side or whatever. So it was pretty simple to put in. So definitely lower action at the nut is a huge plus. Another plus is, because obviously the lower action at the nut could be, if you just have, the nut that was on here was junk. It's just the standard one that comes on a, you know, $160 guitar or whatever. So you could have the nut slots cut correctly, and that would give you the lower action. And you could even have the nut replaced with something better than the cheap plastic one that it came with, and that could be like 50 or 60 bucks, something like that. The Zero Glide system was like 20 or 21 bucks. So if you're willing to fit it a little bit of work, it's not super difficult. But if you're willing to do that for 20 bucks, you have essentially a metal nut, because the string is hitting the metal fret, and you have it really low action. It's great. So that's definitely a plus. It's much cheaper. And you can do it yourself. You don't have to send it out and have somebody do it. The intonation on this guitar is definitely better than with the other nut. The nut that was in it was cut a little too high anyway. But the intonation on this is like pretty spot on, especially in the first few frets and all that, which is where, if you do like the 12th fret intonation thing, usually the first few frets are still out. This was intonated really well. And it seems to be staying in tune better than it was before. The open string tone is definitely brighter and livelier, but what's really weird is it seems the whole guitar is brighter and livelier. I don't know if that's just my mind playing tricks on me or what. I ended up raising the action a bit because it was buzzing on fretted notes. I think it's just because the weather's changing and everything, so the neck shifted a little bit. But I raised the action a bit, so that could have helped the tone. I don't know, but just the guitar seems so much livelier, and it's just so much more enjoyable to play now. I know definitely some of that's the intonation and stuff, because when everything's in tune, it just sounds so much better. But that was definitely one of them. And again, a properly fitted nut would help with the intonation, but I think this fret that they give you to put in maybe is sort of angled slightly, so the nut the string hitting the nut is actually slightly closer to the first fret, which would work along the lines of like a compensated nut kind of a thing. Like they have those systems. They even have those systems where they actually cut the nut slot slightly closer to the first fret. So this, I think, accomplishes that right out of the box. But whatever the case may be, it's intonated really well. I really like it. It's made the guitar like almost a whole new guitar, for me at least. I liked it before, I love it now. So, tone of the guitar I already talked about. Okay, so now the cons. It's a bit of a pain to put in. I'll be perfectly honest. It took me a little while to fool around with it and get it all in and all of that. And it wasn't really difficult now that I know how to do it. I'm planning on getting a couple more for other guitars, and now I don't have any reservations about fitting it on other guitars, because now I know what I need to do and all of that. But right off the off the cuff, there's some trepidation. I'm not sure exactly how I'm doing this, but it really wasn't that bad. Follow the instructions. It's pretty simple. And so that's a con. Another con is the fret itself that they give you seems, maybe it's curved different than the radius of this fretboard, which of course, if you think about it, just say on Fender style, some of them are like, what, 7¼ inches, some of them are 9 or 9½, some of them are 12. I think some Fenders, some Gibsons are like 10-ish or something. So there's definitely some different size curvatures. I think this was curved a little more, so the middle strings, the D and the G, are a little bit higher, and the E's at either end are maybe a little bit lower relative to the middle strings. Whatever the case may be, I had it perfect for the first like 4 strings, or last 4 strings. The E, A, D, G. The B was good. It seemed a little tiny bit low, but the high E was buzzing with open. So I didn't want to put in the next higher fret because the other strings were perfect. And then they would be a little bit high. So what I ended up doing was just shimming in the bottom of the nut slot, shimming this a tiny bit up. And then when I put it in, I put a little bit of glue to sort of hold everything together. But it solved the problem, it fixed it. It now has great action at the nut across all 6 strings. So that was a little bit of a sort of hiccup in the works here. And then the biggest issue is the fret itself seems a little bit soft, the metal. I don't know, but it seemed like the strings, especially like the G and the B, dug a little groove into the fret, and it happened while I was fitting the fret to get the right size. So I was aware that it had happened, so I was really very careful with it, and it was still happening. So it's not like, oh, I was just doing something wrong and I kept nicking the fret. It kept happening, and I was aware of it and was trying to take every precaution. So what the issue is bending at the first couple of frets. The G, there was like a pinging sound as it was going ping, ping, and I could feel it kind of coming in and out of the little groove that it had made in the fret. But then after doing it a bunch, it now stopped doing it on the G. So I think maybe the little divot, it sort of like wore itself smooth again. There's a bit of a ping when I'm bending the B, and it's again mostly at the first couple of frets, second, third, first, second, third fret kind of a thing. But every now and then I do have it bending up higher. I can sort of feel it in my fingers. I'm not totally sure if it's not the string trees. I don't know. But there's definitely a little nick in the fret because I took a really close look at it when it first happened, and I could see a little tiny divot, and I could definitely feel it as I'm bending. Actually, now on the B, it almost sounds like it's gone. It almost feels like it's gone. No, it's sort of still there. But it doesn't seem to bother anything. My only issue is if it's a sharp little nick, it's going to wear out the string, and the string will snap prematurely. But I don't know. That could be a deal breaker for you. As of right now, it's not a deal breaker for me because the pros far outweigh that little issue. If I keep breaking strings, I might reevaluate. But that's about it. The little groove in the fret crown that sort of seems to be happening is really the only real big negative. But again, to me, I would totally recommend the Zero Glide and fretted instrument replacement nut system. It's great. It's like $22 or whatever, 20 bucks, 21. I think I got it online for like 21 bucks or something. I don't know. But it sounds great. But yeah, the whole guitar seems livelier, and the strings seem slinkier. I don't know if because they're sliding a little bit easier over that metal nut, the fret there, or if it's just the lower action. I'm sure it has something to do with it. But the strings really feel slinky and loose, and the whole guitar just sort of jumps and comes alive. I love it. I would recommend it.